Is when I started hearing it coming out of his mouth, I'm going, God damn, this guy kind of hit. You know, if you don't roll dice, you're not likely to die right now.
If you could think, or you could talk, or if you could convince or bribe your way out of this, and not even the situation, you could convince or bribe the, the actual referee. I mean, that's even better. But as soon as the dice hit the table, there's always a chance they're going to come up against you, and there's always a chance you're going to get killed. So you should, you don't even touch the dice. Get to the story and start talking about it.
And amazingly enough, they managed to accomplish quite a few things without having to roll as many dice as they might have. I mean, it was a novel approach, and I kind of sat back and enjoyed it. Didn't matter though. The one party survived half of them, the other one got TBK'd.
But that whole adventure, I mean, that goes. I mean, obviously you wrote it.
Oh, that was a huge. It was a mishmash.
Right.
It's not the way I wrote it, and the way it'll be published. Is it sci-fi? Is it fantasy? Little metal men. Are they clockwork, or do they have some other means of motive? There's this strange tower that has appeared over the centuries. It appears in a sea of flame and disappears in a sea of flame. And from here, I went to the Irish creation myths, the Fear Bolg attacking the Danann. I botched that one. The older people of that, because they attacked, the Irish creations, or the Irish myths talk about them attacking out of towers, and they had fierce warriors who shot beams of light out of their eyes. So I said, well, here's a D&D adventure if I ever saw one. And so I never do answer it all the way through. And because if it comes out right, I'll be able to sell it to a science fiction gamer just as quickly as I'll sell it to a fantasy gamer. It's got metal skin. I alluded to things like crop circles and cow mutilations, and stuff like this. So I dropped enough hints, but they could just be clockwork men. This could be just
crazy sorcerer collecting,
crazy sorcerer drifting in and out of time, collecting supplies because they steal food, they take finely made artifacts. Or is it an interstellar scouting party collecting artifacts for study? I never say. And so, when I came up with the idea, Jim Ward about wet himself. He thought it was such a keen idea.
A man who I say knows a little something about Gonzo Gaming.
Yes, absolutely. And I said, okay, well, let's go for it. And we had a great time, and I never did answer the question, is it or isn't it? In the DM notes, I said, well, that's up to you. I don't care. You start them out in fantasy and turn them into a science fiction game and just, go off for a couple of weeks in an alternate reality. I don't care. But that's my idea of gaming outside the box. Just take it whichever way you want to run. We have some collaborations we planned where I'll write the sci-fi and Jim will write the fantasy, or Chris will write the fantasy and I'll write the sci-fi. And we're going to step over what we normally do. I've got a lot of sci-fi writing coming up, I understand. So, but it's kind of fun to stretch ourselves because it's still fantasy role-playing. Just got ray guns instead of wands. Really, when you get right down to it, vibra knives instead of vorpal swords.
Right.
There's a corollary all the way across.
Was it Arthur C. Clarke? Any form of technology far enough advanced is just the same as magic?
That's right. Yeah, flash. Well, I'll tell you a story. We were playtesting Jim Ward's Metamorphosis. That's in the Warden, right?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. And we were these tech ignorant people who had gotten tired of wandering around scratching ourselves and decided, we were the brave ones, we were going to do some exploring. Gary drove us nuts for 2 nights because he kept these caves, these square caves we went into. Well, he didn't even call them square at first. It's like playing with a Margaret Mead anthropological report. He broke it down to the simplest, cave opening ahead, hard sides, okay, it's a square door. I had to translate everything. He drove us nuts. We could never get out of the first level because we couldn't figure out that those piles of wood stacked up in the corner were steps. Steps! Oh my God! For 2 days we haven't been able to get out of the first. There's steps! Oh, well, why didn't you tell us there's steps? Go on, we've never seen steps. And I'll never forget that because that's where you take somebody and you strip them of all their meta knowledge and you divide. And we found these wonderful black bars that when you shook them, light would shoot out of it. Well, they were those old gravity, shake them up things, and Gary stuck them in there, and of course, he's using Margaret Mead terms to describe them, and we're trying to figure out how to work them. God, that was fun. That's the only time I really enjoyed sci-fi, because I'm more fantasy-oriented. But God, he drove us nuts with that stuff, describing things like Margaret Mead would have used, trying to explain something and some primitive she'd run across. Amazing stuff. And that was completely gonzo at the time, because nobody had ever done a sci-fi game like that before.
Yeah, I think Expedition of the Barrier Peaks is pretty much the poster child for Gonzo Gaming.
Yeah, oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, or the Temple of Elemental Evil. That's about as gonzo as it gets.
Yeah, but we're talking, the kind
survivable,
of no expectations.
Well, you go in the Temple of Elemental, you don't expect to come out alive.
That's
come on.
No, I mean, like genre expectations.
Yeah, exactly. No, and what's wrong with whacking your people into a Wild West thing where they got these wands that point at you that shoot metal bullet, throw metal pellets or something once in a while? Bend the limits. Teleport them somewhere where it's an entirely different culture. And
who does that?
And in my Phoenix Tower, I had everything described in terms that the players would understand. But was it a sci-fi weapon, or was bend them a little bit, make them think outside the box. One of the neatest things that happens to me when I'm gaming is when that person that's been sitting in the back, participating but not exerting or projecting themselves, sees right through something and puts their finger on it. Because not only is that fun to see, but you see their self-confidence boost. And I've used limited forms of role-playing in teaching, and had great success with the lower rated classes. Low schools I used to them had tiered mainstream, low, and college AP, and I had a couple of lower stream classes, but they really ate it up because I was working on the principle if you can internalize knowledge, then you'll remember it. And so I did a very limited form of role playing. I just divided the classes up into nationalities, and then I gave them a little persona close to their age. And the only thing that couldn't happen to them over the course of this exercise is they wouldn't die, because then they wouldn't be able to write the essays they had to write at the end of the project. And so it was First World War, and so I screwed with them every day. And they would meet and get together. The French would talk to the French, and the British would talk to the French, and compare notes and what's happening in your life, what's happening in your life. And I kept making them write me things. And at the beginning, I made them all write me a little bio, a little half-page bio. And so I tailored everything I did to the bios they gave me. And I had this one girl who was just a hopeless doodler, Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel, that's all she wrote on her page. I had the handouts, Vin Diesel, but she was dreamy-eyed and in love with Vin Diesel. And of course, in her bio, she had a boyfriend, and everything was nice. I killed him. And then a couple of episodes later, a couple of weeks later, she had another boyfriend, so I blew off both his legs in a battle in France, And I did this to all the students to one degree or another. I affected their lives. And this Vin Diesel girl wrote me the most amazing 3.5-page essay. I had to keep turning it over to see if she was the one who wrote it. So I see that as role-playing, and as enabling people to internalize things. I see the definite educational values there, and at the time it was a damn gonzo application because I had to talk to the school board and let me do it. I got this 2-week project that I want to do because we were on a bell system, so we did 90-minute classes, very intense. And it was a great success. They talked about it all over the school, and then I didn't go back to that school the next year, but I heard later that there were kids that were pissed off to find out they were going to be in that class and got to do that role-playing thing. And that was, I took it outside the box and had a great time with it. We're probably going to publish that at some point through the Eldritch Wizardry, through our educational wing. We have a culinary wing, we're going to do cookbooks.
Nice. Culinary.
Yes. Oh, Frank's wife is a phenomenal, out of this world
Baker,
baker.
right?
Oh my God. The joke at Lake Geneva Con used to be how many Kringles could Frank get in his trunk. He would bring down 40 Kringles. Debbie would bake for 3 days before he left, just to get his Kringle order aside from the shop order. 40 extra Kringles. And he, oh God, he'd take a whole trunk full of baked goods to Jenko. I can't wait to get some of her recipes. Gonzo. That's cooking's not very Gonzo.
Since we have spoken his name, we might as well introduce how Jim Ward and how Gamma World kind of changed my thinking of Gonzo. I mean, I think technically we can refer to Gamma World as, I've seen it as referred to as Wahoo rather than more than Gonzo. Because there is a certain there's very much a wild and Wild West, nothing. No necessary internal logic, within the camping world, so it gives you a lot of things to play with. But I wrote an adventure for Gamma World I think about 2 years ago. Because Gamma World remains one of my first loves. So I was approaching it again, taking the idea of a classic, a trope, within the genre and turning it on its ear. It was set up, the adventurers, they're up and coming young tribesmen, and they basically stumble upon an old power plant that had been shut down since the cataclysm. And they go in there, and if they get the thing up and running again, it allows them to become a power in the local vicinity, because now we control energy. So I wanted to play with the idea, and I mean, the idea of the crazy computer running the installation is, it goes back to before Gamma World, it goes back at least to 2001, Hal, going crazy on this. So I said,
Asimov before that,
right,
with iRobot,
right.
Sure, Foundation.
So I wanted to touch on this, but I didn't want it to be, okay, the characters go in, okay, they know that the central computer has gone nuts, and it's that they have to, that's the dragon in this particular layer that has to be defeated. And I've been watching a little bit of those, Life After People or Population Zero, the show where they speculate what happens if all life on Earth vanish at once. So I've seen a little bit of, most power plants are set, so if something goes on, they basically go into a safe mode. So I was like, okay, all right, so rather than the computer be crazy, the base has gone down into a safe mode. And I started, okay, so if we can't have the central computer be the crazy computer on this, what else can we do? And then I remember, I don't know if it's become commonplace yet, but now that we have fiber optic networks connecting everything, I remember seeing that they're getting to the point where like soda machines and vending machines, they keep track of their inventory, and when they're out of like Dr. Pepper, they fire an email to the distributor, and the distributor knows to make a delivery, and restock the Dr. Pepper. So anything is like, okay, computers and vending machines. So the computer has been, the central computer is down here, the happy little soda machine sitting in the employee lounge has been stuck for the last 500 years. There's enough time to develop sentience. So basically, the computer that was now running the base was the vending machine in the employee lounge. So the players come in expecting like the central computer to be the bad guy, but it's actually the slash futuristic vending soda machine. So I got into the point where, of course, it has Twinkies in there, have been sitting there since the cataclysm. So
it's still edible,
right? Still edible, but it can lob out bottles of soda which have gone now virulently poisonous and radioactive, and as it's doing this, it's shouting, slogans because, choice of a new generation, So, that was an idea of taking a Gonzo idea and taking something that's completely expected and just doing something unexpected with it. But hopefully, to the point where when they think about it, it's like, yeah, that was the adventure where we defeated the soda machine, right?
Yeah, there's a tale to be told around the campfires late at night. Yes, in our dotage. Yeah, the night we beat the soda machine.
It was a vicious vending. It was a soda vending machine. So.
But it's that kind of stories that makes what we do so good. Whenever I see a guy named Dave Temperato, we go back to something that happened to him at Lake Geneva, the last Lake Geneva game convention, which is Fort Garry died. And he got turned into a knoll. And he pulled the sleeves down off his shirt, and he just ran with it. He's flying, my arm is crushing me, just ran with it. And there's several pictures were taken of him, because everybody in there is just like, ah. But that's Gonzo play. He just embraced the moment.
Embraced the chaos.
And I've got a copy of that on my computer. I go back and oh yeah, I remember that. Oh man, this guy got turned into the gnome. Or gnome, I'm sorry, gnome. Yeah, he got turned into a gnome. And so he had something else, and he was bigger, so everything didn't fit, and just jumped into it. That's Gonzo play.
Uh-huh.
That's Gonzo play. Embrace it, run with it, have a good time.
Next
Knowing you're
time
gonna
you're
die
playing a
is
half
good.
lane, don't sit in the chair, sit on the floor. You know, see everything from that level.
Yeah, don't take the full bite, don't hit it.
Right.
Because there's nothing better than a glorious player character death.
Nobody remembers who plays it safe.
No.
Unless by playing it safe gets everybody else killed, and then nobody forgets it.
Yeah, I had 14 or 15 players in my college campaign at 74 and 75, and I remember about 5 of them. They were the Gonzo Braves, the ones that went for the gusto, did great things or stupid things, or whatever. But they had the right stuff, the right mindset, and those are the ones I remember. And I know there were others, obviously, because we always had large tables full. But they were the guys that played it safe, played it quiet. They had fun because they kept coming back, obviously, and I enjoyed having them there. But they never did anything grand and glorious. And after all, this is Swords and Sorcery. It's all about grand and glorious. Or it's space opera, all about glorious, going out in a nova. That's Gonzo gaming. Don't fear.
No matter either you're playing or you're designing.
And that's what everybody plays.
Fear is the mind killer.
Well, that's what everybody plays at cons. In a one-off, everybody plays Gonzo. They don't care. I'll push that pretty red button anyway. Right. That's how Jim kills people, pushing pretty red buttons. Yeah, how many of you watch die pushing panels?
I survived the one time I've had a chance to play Metamorphosis Alpha.
Okay.
But I threw everybody under the space bus. So,
well, hey, it's every man for himself.
What I noticed about Jim's game is Jim has a reputation for being a killer DM, but he's not. Jim gleefully hands the players enough rope to hang themselves and sits back and just watches it.
And a knife and a hand grenade if the rope wasn't enough.
Exactly.
He'll give you plenty of opportunities to kill yourself.
Exactly.
And he does it such oh, you make me so happy with that. And then he tears up your thing and says you won't be getting an autograph. Next. And he's just gleefully, blissfully just eating it up. And you don't mind because it's Jim. And he does it so, it's like he just slipped a velvet knife in between your ribs that you didn't feel, Okay, Jim, thank you. I sat in on his game today, his one before the R7.
Right.
And I get in there, and there's like 36 minutes left, and he's still got a full table. Number one, I'm going, oh, Jim's getting soft in his old age. An hour before in there, he's blistering them with radiation, and they're blanking out in blotches, but apparently they got fixed. 1 minute to 2. Last one. 1 minute to 2. And he didn't. They were stupid. You were stupid. They were slugs. Frank could crawl away from slugs. But that's Gonzo Gaming because hell no, I'm not going to retreat. I'm going to shoot them till they kill me, But you know what I'm saying about Jim. Oh, I'm so glad you did. Oh, what a wonderful number you just rolled, I'm not quite that cold-blooded. I don't tear up character sheets. I sign them after games, and if you lived, I say I survived, and if you didn't, I say you died, but okay. But Jim epitomizes seat of the pants, roll with the punches, go with what the players are doing, because they'll always find somewhere something stupid. They'll find something stupid. Just let them look long enough. Let them look long enough.
Tim and I were actually talking just before this whole thing. We were talking the idea about fearlessness when you're approaching it from either from the design point or from the playing point. And I was telling Tim, and this is my realization that it's come down to. Is that if you were the referee, if you were trying to introduce the Gonzo into the game session, the fine line to know that if you were in the ballpark is that if you come up with an idea which makes you think that this is either the most genius idea that you've ever come up with, or the absolute stupidest idea that you've ever thought of. If you were walking down that line, chances are you're on the right path. Because it's about fearlessness. It's about throwing yourself in. It's like, okay, this idea, I know that I'm onto something good is that when I'm done writing for the day, I have a look and I said, where the hell did this idea come from? I did something for Goodman Games. There's an adventure coming out called The Sea Queen Escapes. And at one point, there's kind of involves this undersea vignette. It's like, okay, how do we introduce them to the undersea? So I made up, there's a series of, basically they're like scuba suits, but they're made out of jellyfish. So the players basically have to climb themselves into a Portuguese man of war and go stomping along at the bottom of the lagoon to go fight the giant clam. And when I was done, I had no idea where I had the idea of sticking somebody in a jellyfish and using that as some sort of self-contained underwater breeding apparatus, let alone introducing the giant clam, which is of course a treasure chest.
But it doesn't matter. Now there's Gonzo Design and there's Gonzo DM and then there's Gonzo Gaming. And I'll relate the story that you haven't, for those who haven't heard of Deathless Bob. Deathless Bob was a young man that came along to, we were college guys at Southern Illinois, and our faculty liaison was a history teacher, and his son got to come along, and he wasn't too obnoxious, so he was tolerated. And then when he found out we were going to be playing this new thing, he thought, well, okay, can I bring my friend? Okay. So Bob started showing up. Bob was 14, 15, we're all college guys. Tom Wong, by the way, I went to college with, and Gary Duquette, and both later ended up at TSR, and we're all hairy dudes. And Deathless Bob showed up every week, rolled up the character, sat down at the table, and died. For 7 months. He came back every time. Ate in the party, boulder falls out of the sky. It's Bob. Bob would know it was going to hit him. He came back. He came back. Every time he came back. We took a break. We're going to play some Boot Hill. Bob says, okay, what are my character choices? And, Reservation Indian, I like that, he says. So he's going to be an Indian living on the reservation. Well, unfortunately, in the course of the game, he had to go into town and get some supplies. So he's walking down the street, riding down the street on his old spaving horse, and a greasy Mexican bandito dude sitting on the porch of the saloon jumps up, levels his sawed-off shotgun, and blows the Indian out of the saddle. And one of the player characters killed Bob. Bob died. Bob died. But he kept coming back. He never lost. He was enjoying himself right up to the moment he died. 7, 8 months went by. Bob finally lived through an adventure. And this is back when we were being really serious. I was actually allowing him an average die every time he restarted, so he didn't have to start below 4th level if he got lucky, because everybody else went out 6 and 7. And he survived. And here's this 15, 16-year-old kid, all these college guys, cheering, offering him cigars. Let's go out and have some beers, Bob. We were so glad that Bob had a character that lived. He died 2 weeks later. Bob was back the week after. That's Gonzo Gaming. You just love what you're doing. Whether he would love being with the older guys, whether he loved being with his buddy, whatever. But you gotta admire that spirit. That's Gonzo Gaming on the other side. He was always there, ready to catch his rock in the head. We'll get it, Bob. A couple of times he goes, don't bother to roll. I know it's going to be me, and I roll anyway, and by God it was him. But he always came back. And we need more Deathless Bobs.
Fearless and having a good time.
Yeah, and you're there to have the fun. He had fun every week, so he kept coming back. And if you're not having fun, you shouldn't be doing it. If your players keep coming back, then you're a good DM. Now, I don't differentiate between grades and good. Once your players come back, you're good enough. If you're providing fun for your friends, you got it.
As long as you're having a good time too.
Well, yeah, but we can't talk about what makes us laugh.
Well, no.
Gets our hair standing up. No, that would be, no, yes. I marvel at the stupidity of man. Then I'm an old teacher, so I've been marveling at the stupidity of man for years and years. But like Jim says, I don't kill him, I just give him lots of chances. And no matter how many times I write these things, no matter how many times I play the same adventure, somebody will come up with a WTF moment. What? What are you gonna try? Okay, let's go. And if it's something I haven't thought of before, I'm all right. You roll a 20 and I'll roll a 20. And if I beat the hell out of you, it obviously didn't work. And if you beat me, I guess it might have. That's fair. And the game goes on, and I didn't have to look up some rules and make a ruling. Okay, let's roll a 20. All right, away we go. How many times did we roll 20s when you were playing with the Gary Count? We were rolling 20s all the time.
Well, they were rolling 20.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah,
get killed.
yeah, not in the rolls of die, not in the rolls of die.
Let's think our way out of this.
Yeah, so it's time to go kill polar bears barehanded. Sigurd Bearbreaker.
Well, I mean,
What a guy.
when you have to roll, you know,
Yeah.
when push comes to shove, if you are going to roll, at least make it memorable. So.
Well, this dwarf was so small, each of those 12-foot polar bears would have made 3 really outstanding robes. He was that little. He's Gonzo. You know, hey, we're gonna die anyway. Let's die gloriously. Whoop! I didn't die. Well, don't think I'll try that again, but it was fun.
Right, and that's actually that's what the Dungeon Alphabet is actually all about. Not to do it by own plug, but if
No,
you,
no,
if you
plug
read,
it. It's
if
a
you read
great
my,
book.
If you read my introduction, I basically lay out the fact that my philosophy is stop worrying and love the dungeon. I mean, and it was designed. I mean, it's not set up to be like this is how you do it. It was designed as a series of tables. So like if you have to roll or if you just look over the thing over, okay, there's a germ of an idea here, and what can I do with this idea? Because I find that I'll just give you a little bit of a push because you're going to take that idea and you go somewhere where I would,
Make it your own.
Right, I would never go there myself. I mean, I'm sure if we came up with one subject matter in this room today, I'm sure every one of us will come off some variation of the theme, and then every one of us would be like, I would have never thought of that idea. That is pure genius. So.
Well, I like the book because if you're just kind of blocked, I just will pick it. I've read it through probably 4 times now. I'll just pick it up and open it to a page, and just have fun laughing, and then I'll go back to what I'm doing and whatever. But I love it for that reason. It's very, very old school. It's germ of an idea, pick it up and run with it. That was what it was all about. We stole everything we got. We read voraciously so we could steal ideas out of books. I don't know how many times Conan probably got killed in the 70s because, that was the best thing to come up with. Yeah, there's a big muscly guy chasing you. He's Conan, But hey, that's okay. That's how you grow your imagination. You use the familiar and you go from there. And that's what Gonzo Gaming is.
And in the same thing as you mentioned Conan. I mean, another Gonzo idea is to why not introduce Conan? Give the players a chance to kill Conan.
Yeah.
So
most of them think it'd be better than killing Thor.
Exactly.
So okay.
We killed Conan. We kicked his ass because you're having a good time and they have a good memory. And and so it breaks canon. Maybe I'm saying I'm not a huge Conan fan, so I wouldn't mind killing him. Maybe I'm in the wrong state to be saying something like that.
Conan comes with better babes.
Conan comes with what?
Better babes.
Oh, better babe. Yeah, I gotta admit that. Yeah. Well, kill Conan and take the babe.
Exactly. There you go.
There you go. That's incentive. Of course, I was playing with younger people. When you come to cons, you can't do things like that. Can't have the fun you might otherwise have. Amongst adults. Like my twice a day quirk.
Keep going off that as what we got.
Well, I think the goddamnest quirk I've ever been handed on a PC. Jesus, gravity. Couldn't have picked something more embarrassing.
You took it and you ran with it. So
Yes, I did.
That's a certain fearlessness and totally embracing the character.
Yeah.
Gonzo mindset.
We played this celebrity game, charity game yesterday, and Doug made up all these pre-gens, and he gave everybody a quirk.
At this point, if they make the streaming video and they available for download, there'll be a long beep
Yes.
until it starts speaking here.
Yes, because I had an addiction that required me to seek relief twice a day at least. So, and I'm a gnome illusionist, right? Oh, good. What am I going to do? Chase chickens? So, he said we could, put a few more things on there. So I just put down 4 flasks of whiskey and 2 vials of goose grease. We had a whole bunch of kids in the room, so I couldn't really run with that. But one time I did manage that for just a brief second there, that basket he was riding, it was bouncing up and down, but it stopped now. Because There was three. There was a dwarf. There was a dwarf fighter, a gnome illusionist, and a hobbit thief, and we got to ride 40 miles. I go, no. I think we need to get some of these big pannier baskets that we can hang 2 of those on either side, and me and the hobbit will ride in there, and the dwarf can steer the horse. I hardly got out of the basket the whole time I was out there, because we ran into stuff I couldn't even begin to hope to fight. And then, of course, I'm in the basket. Oh, the basket's bouncing. But I really couldn't run with it very much. I've run with it much more here because we don't have any gun children in there. But, you know, with your group, you can get into that kind of stuff if you want. What used to perv me back in the days of the early days of the game was people, oddly enough, people from New York, some of the fanzines in New York got obsessed with girdles that changed people's sexes, whether they wanted to or not. I never did quite understand that. We used to get I used to get tons of submissions for these, and not only did it just make you into the other sex, but
It's Greenwich Village thing.
I don't know. They were coming from different people, but that was a little odd. But luckily that passed. Luckily, we just studiously ignored it for a long time. That was not going to ever come out in a supplement. No. We had enough religiosos breathing down our neck. We weren't going there. We were already destined for hell. We once Gary and I got these 3.5 page long letters that were meticulously handwritten by beautiful handwriting from this woman, who proceeded to tell us each what part of hell we were destined to spend eternity in and what torments we were likely to suffer. And she was dead serious. This is back when the religious backlash first started. They're having game burnings in Minnesota, and the fundamentalist church are burning the games. And first time that happened, we heard about it. Brian says, "Who's their distributor? They're going to need more product," and he was right. Our distributor in that area completely reloaded and sold it out in 3 weeks. So I'm going to hell according to them. But I don't think so. Hell would be having to go and play a game I didn't like with people I couldn't stand.
Right.
I just don't think that's going to happen to me. I'll change the game if it
Change
does.
the game now. No, you mentioned with the New York fanzines,
Alarms and Excursions was a great one.
When I met Frank Metzer 2 years ago. The first time he was out in New York as a guest of honor at my local con, and we got that's how I met Frank. We got to talk. He knew the Dungeon Alphabet. We were trading stories. I think the last day Frank and I were hanging out, I said, "Frank, okay, I haven't been busting your chops and asking a lot of stories about you and Gary and all the rest of it. I figure if I hang around long enough, I'll hear them all eventually." But I said, I do have a question. Okay, the Book of Marvelous Magic that you and Gary put out, that collection of magical items that went out for D&D. I said, there's a lot of magical items, there's a lot of puns in there, a lot of really gonzo ideas. I said, Frank, is that indicative of your and Gary's sense of humor? And he's like, oh yeah, that is Lake Geneva gaming humor all over the place. So if you don't have it in your collection, and you can pretty much find it. The Book of Marvelous Magic. It's a great little gonzo source book, literally a magic item, like a barrel full of monkeys. Literally a barrel full of monkeys. So,
I've heard the stories of how they created some of that one.
Well, obviously,
It's not surprising there's stuff like a barrel full of monkeys in there. But yeah, that was a big departure for Gary going that crazy on something like that, because he'd always been trying to hold the line and come on now, we're not a bunch of nuts, we're studious and we're educated and intelligent people. We just happen to like to play with dragons, And that one went way out the line for him. But I think he enjoyed doing it because he finally got to show his silly side. Yeah, his silly side. We're
Big
run
Frank
over.
is good, are we?
Yep, we run over. Is there anybody coming in after us? I have a 6-hour game session that starts in an hour. So I'm going to need a few minutes to get my head straight for that one.
Anybody have a question?
Any questions?
Mike should have been here, but apparently he disintegrated and left his walkie-talkie behind. So,
He must have been wearing a red shirt at the beginning of Star Trek. Is there a cube of sand or salt down there? That's a job you never want to get the red shirt in the first scene and start. Oh, I'm wearing a red shirt in scene 1. Oh shit, that'll be a brief one.
And for an example, another
door
Gonzo
that's
Gaming
an
said,
airlock.
if you want the away team for the Enterprise in your dungeon, why not? Just
Yeah.
open up the door and have the red shirts in there. So
Yep.
you give the chance, you kill Conan, why not try to take on?
Well, and I did that. I did that with Phoenix Tower. You know, like Mike said, one person's technology is another's magic, and I kept telling giving the DM notes that, well, you know, okay, you're on a world where magic works, so magic's going to work. Okay, even though so whether it's technology or not, you're on a world that's got magic. Now, whether or not they perceive their technology as magic, or it doesn't matter. It's just all blurred and moshed together, and that further blurred the line between the two. But I said, okay, now let's think about this. If you're a powerful wielder of the arcane arts, you ought to be able to open that ordinarily locked door. Okay, so how do you equate technology to magic? And then that gets a little funny. Okay, how strong does your knock spell have to be to open a case lock? Okay, as opposed to a leather, wood, and brass hinged door handle, that's been secured from the inside. But we didn't seem to get in our way. We just kind of ran with it.
Because we were having fun.
Yeah, we were. And they found, who drank your fertilizer?
Wasn't me.
They were, it must have been the other group. I had all these potions. I had these potions on the plant level. And some of them were fertilizer and some of them were plant killer. And the one guy drank the fertilizer and he had to make a save versus poison. And he made it, so the other guy went over and drank the plant killer and didn't. So he figured, oh, that one wasn't good, this one must be. I love that logic. Oh, yes. No, don't think that I got 2 things there that are both bad for you. Excuse me.
All right.
I've been talking too long.
We'll edit that out. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Edit that one out. It looked a little weird.
All right.
All right, guys, thanks
Thank
for
you very much
coming.
for coming down.
Thanks for coming. We'll do this again sometime.
Oh.
Just get an hour to ramble. I'm all for that. Oh, yes, I knew him well. There he is, all that remains. This walkie-talkie.
I've been signing this one.
I gotta have you sign my s'mores before I leave.
Oh yeah, you gotta sign have a sword too. I need you to sign that. I have a sword.
Okay, well, I don't, some of them are signable and some aren't. I got the wooden pirate cutlass, so mine signs okay with a fine tip Sharpie. But some of them are black acrylics, and that would need like a silver pen or something like that on it. So I took my sword to Jeff, and so he's right in the middle, big silver pen and groove. So I said, well, I know I gotta come to the artist first, 'cause he's gotta take up the most room, so.
We'll be at the bar.
I've got here's exactly along those lines. Okay.
Real quick, I need your key. It won't work anymore. Here's a new key that does.
Okay.
Bill forgot to give me his credit card, so they had deactivated.
Oh, no.
He's gonna toss this.
In fact, this was in our playtest for 4th edition, but that actually doesn't have any bearing on what had happened. So they've got a module that's a lot like Keep on the Borderlands. You show up and they've got a problem. And we're like, well, we'll fix that problem for you. We're adventurers, right? And so they negotiated a daily rate. And so we get in there, and the two new guys are like, okay, well, let's go to dungeon. And the other 3 of us are like, are you kidding? They're paying us on a daily rate.
We'll get there eventually.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff we got to do before we go in.
We were not in a hurry. This is a daily deal. We stretch this baby out.
That's right.
You a good con?
You have a good con?
So far, yeah. It's been busy.
First time with this one?
Yeah, it's my first time here.
I like it.
You still got second best. You last the entire game. And then, yeah, you got we didn't win. Maybe. I don't think that's true. Oh, yeah, that's right. No, he did win. Yes. He was one of the guys that was like. No, he wasn't. He was the guy who was doing that. Heather was doing that. And he was like, what are you doing the whole time? Everybody used to like try to close the gas on it. He's the only one. He's the only one.
I guess the highest I ever made it in D&D was like 21st level mage, 2012 multi-class. Yeah, it was Monty Hall. Yeah, back in the college days. With the GM who would let you do anything. It was like,
I could tell you missed those days.
rubber.
Yeah.
Well, he just sat back and let the players fought against each other. The players were the major competition, not the GM. The meanest thing he ever did, I guess, was he created clones of him in the game. And he said that the GM had an off-power, so every time he looked at him, like you say, he was standing there. So we thought that was next, kind of funny. But